Today we'll be looking into a very important aspect of a Sikh's life. But before we get to that, you might already have a couple of questions. What is a Sikh? What is important to Sikhs within their religion? Sikhism originated in the 15th century in a region of India called Punjab. The adherence to this religion heavily depends on where you're located, but it is highly upkept in Punjab. Most people there will be wearing turbans and participating in all the various activities and practices the religion has to offer. However, wearing a turban stems from the idea of keeping your hair kesh. Kesh is this idea where one does not cut their hair and lets it grow. Keeping your hair kesh dates back to the 17th century, so the religion was already 200 years old before this idea came to be. However, as immigration outside of India continues to increase, the adherence to wearing a turban seems to decrease due to societal pressure. Palli is a Sikh man living in the United States. Originally from Punjab, back home Palli wears his turban and engages in the religious activities, as do his friends and family. But once he immigrated to the US, things were a little different. He found himself not wearing his turban 100% of the time. Maybe to fit in, maybe because he didn't want to. But his family sure didn't appreciate it. He speaks on this idea of dual identities. He lives two lives, two Facebook pages, two sets of friends. He has one Facebook page that demonstrates him wearing a turban. He shares that with his friends and family back home in Punjab. However, he has another Facebook page where he doesn't wear his turban. He shares that with his friends in the United States. He found that once he took off his turban, a boatload of modeling agencies and opportunities arose. However, once his family found out that he wasn't wearing his turban, they were pretty upset with him for ditching their religion. He wasn't allowed home for 6 months. This is something that most people don't even consider when someone might have to ditch their turban to feel more included in this United States society. On its own, wearing a turban might single someone out in the US. But after 9/11, that was a different story. The after effects of 9/11 were drastic. Security at TSA increased, but there was just a general fear throughout the American society and the public. There became this image of the bad guy.
A 70-year-old Queens man is the latest victim of a possible bias attack.
Still wearing his bloody jacket and speaking in his native language of Punjabi, Nirmal Singh told us the moment he was hit. He says he was punched from behind on a Sunday morning walk on 95th Avenue and Lefferts Boulevard.
While in no way am I condoning any sorts of racism or xenophobia towards Muslims, I do believe that there is a misrepresentation going on. This representation is likely due to a lack of awareness, a lack of education of the American population. Typically, as Americans, people aren't so interested in learning a whole lot about things that don't exactly relate to them. The American population sometimes might not even know what's going on with their neighbors, neighboring countries, next door neighbors. Without that understanding, it's impossible to know more about people who are unlike you. If we increased education, this would likely solve the issue, but that's not exactly the case. When was the last time you learned about religion outside of a religion class? Unfortunately, the xenophobia finds its way into classrooms as well. A study showed that 2/3 of Sikhs who wear turbans in school are bullied, whether these are harsh comments or even having someone's turban tried to be ripped off. The only place Sikhs seem to find refuge is at home, which doesn't allow them to be fully participating members of our American society. In order for us to create a society where this xenophobia and racism against religions doesn't exist, we must start with our schools. As I said previously, it's unlikely that you would talk about religion or identity, things like that, in a class unless that class is solely based on religion. We would need to start educating our younger generations on the formalities of Sikhism. But not only Sikhism, other minority religions as well, Islam, Judaism, religions you and I may have never even heard of before. It would have to start with an idea that we need to do better as a whole. It's not going to take one person. Everyone has to be on board. We need to learn about each other. So next time you don't know, ask a question. Be curious. I encourage you.